Hello, and welcome to another episode of Quick Spin, the Autoweek podcast that takes you to the essence of the automobile. Today, we've got a great show. We're featuring the 2020 Porsche 718 Cayman T. That's right, this little Porsche coupe that is quite sporty to drive. Mr. Wes Raynal is joining us to talk about it, and he took you along for a little ride. But before we get to that, don't forget to head over to our Facebook, drop us a like, subscribe to our Facebook, and also go to wherever you get this and drop a little 5-star review, a little review, and let us know how you feel about the show. More importantly, you can also check out this Porsche on our Instagram page. That's at Autoweek USA on Instagram. But before we jump to this beautiful discussion about this little Porsche, we have to pay the bills. Our friends at Road & Trek have some big news to share. The premium lifestyle magazine for the automotive enthusiast is now fully loaded. Become a member of the Trek Club and receive 6 supersized double issues a year, plus access to digital content, dozens of partner privileges, exclusive invites to editorial events, and first dibs on insider automotive events, both online and around the world. Hop on it by visiting roadandtrek.com/join. That's ROADANDTRECK.com/JOIN. And without any further ado, Mr. Raynal, tell me about that Porsche.
This was I'm sure it's still around somewhere. This is the 2020 Porsche 718 Cayman T. I don't want to call it entry level, but it's right around $70,000.
Which for a Porsche, that's kind of at the starting point.
It's not bad. Now, you should know that it's got a 4-cylinder, a flat 4, instead of the old flat 6. It's a turbo 2-liter flat 4, made it to a 6-speed manual transmission in this particular car. My car had sport suspension, which does include adaptive shocks. It makes the car not quite an inch lower. My car also had a mechanical limited slip, 20-inch Carrera S wheels, the Sport Chrono package, which I never really understood the big appeal of the Sport Chrono package, but my car had it.
Isn't the big appeal the massive clock in the dash?
I guess. I mean, sure. I never played with it. I don't know. For $72,000 and change, it's a pretty nice little car. It's got probably the best steering. This and the 911 have the best steering really in the business, as far as I'm concerned. And it probably has one of the better balanced chassis in the business also, as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know. I don't understand necessarily the strategy of putting 4 cylinders in some of these cars. I mean, you can get a Cayman with a flat 6, and of course 911s have the 6. I don't know. This 4-cylinder sounded a little flatulent to me. Not bad, but I'm an old air-cooled flat 6 guy, so that's how I gauge the sound of every Porsche engine.
Well, that's a reasonable gauge.
Beautiful handling, build quality, excellent, of course. I'm sure Porsche, it's a new model, by the way, for 2020, or at least this Cayman T was just introduced in 2020. I don't know if they've had them in the past or not, but it was cool. It was nice. If I'm going to get this body, if I'm going to get a 718, though, I'm going to get the Boxster so I can put the top down.
Makes sense. There are some people that like convertibles and other people that like coupes. But more importantly, Mr. Raynal, you took some time out of your day and you walked around the Cayman to kind of give us the experience of it, and we're going to play that right now.
Today I'm driving a pretty little red Porsche Cayman 718T that comes with a little Boxster 4 2-liter turbo in the back end of it, or sort of in the middle, I guess. 300 horsepower, 280 pounds-feet, very lightweight feeling car. Mine has the 6-speed manual transmission, which works wonderfully. You can also get the 7-speed PDK. If you get the PDK, the car can hit 60 in 4.5 seconds. The manual, according to Porsche, hits that same speed, 60, in 4.9 seconds. The top track speed in all configurations and body styles is 170. And by body styles, they mean this car comes with the hardtop in the Cayman like I'm driving, and it also comes as a Boxster. Like I said, it's a nice looking car. It's red. It's got like the 6-speed, as I mentioned. It's got a stereo, very nice little stereo in it. Leather dash, leather steering wheel. It does have cloth seats and they're manually adjustable. And I think you could almost consider this car sort of a stripper, but I mean, it's obviously not a stripper. It has power steering and power windows and things of that nature. But it stickers for $72,500, which I think is, quite honestly, quite reasonable. The base price is $66,400, and I've got a few little options on mine, like nav and heated seats and the auto climate control. But really, I mean, in this day and age, $72,500 for a Porsche is not that bad, and we're going to take it for a spin right now.
Well, we're going to take it for a spin in a little bit. But Mr. Raynal, you touched on a few things, but let's talk about that interior, because that's where people spend most of their time. Manual seats, that seems pretty weird on a car that costs $70,000, although the impetus is obviously weight savings, right?
Probably weight savings, yeah. And you know what else this car had, now that I think about it? It had those silly little pull straps to open the door, which I guess is another way of quote-unquote saving weight. But seriously, that compared to a regular door handle, how much does that really save? I have no idea. But it did have those little cloth little straps that you pull on to open the doors, which I think are a little bit silly. Other than that, the build, like I said, the build quality was quite high, leathers and nice materials inside. The 6-speed was a joy, of course. The keys on the left, which is the old Le Mans, an old feature from Le Mans. The idea was that back in the day, they fired the gun and all the drivers ran across the track and jumped in the car and started the car and took off down the straightaway at Le Mans. And Porsche, putting the key on the left side, thought it was easier to reach. It was a quicker reach for the guy jumping into the car than over on the right, around the other side of the steering wheel. Whatever. It's a feature that they've had for decades, and it is a feature on this car. Key on the left, 6-speed manual, touchscreen, center-mounted touchscreen. Not a huge touchscreen, not a tiny touchscreen, sort of in between. Plenty of room inside for a car this size. I mean, this is not a big car. It's small. Nice clear instruments, big tack in the middle, smaller speedometer on the left, and then sort of a menu of instruments that are configurable on the right.
Well, that sounds like quite the interior. But I think what people want to hear, and what I want to hear, is how it's like to drive, which we're going to go to right now.
So here we go. We're going to take this little Porsche Cayman for a spin, the Cayman T. It's a little tricky with the 6-speed manual, but I am a professional, a paid professional, so I should be able to handle this, I would think. First of all, this with 300 horsepower and the chassis and the way the suspension's set up and the engine in the middle, this thing is just a delight. It only weighs 3,000 pounds, really, which this day and age is really a light. I guess that's considered a pretty light little car. There's very few cars on the market today that get below that. I'm sure there's a few without looking it up, but it's light. 3K is light, let's just say that. The thing I like about it is, my favorite aspect of this car is the steering, and I do not hate the 4-cylinder, but I don't love the 4-cylinder as much as I love Porsche's flat 6s. And generally speaking, in life, I would rather go through life with a flat 6 behind me than a flat 4. But that said, this Turbo 4 is not that bad. It sounds a little agricultural, and one of the things I've always loved about Porsches, the flat 6s, is their sound. And this doesn't have quite the sound as a flat 6. It doesn't sound bad. It just doesn't sound as cool as a flat 6. But what this car does have that rocks my world is the steering. I don't know of a car company out there right now, and I have to drive a bunch of cars back to back, I realize that. But off the top of my head, sitting here in this little red sports car that I'm sitting in, the steering in this thing is just sublime. It's light, it's direct, it's extremely direct. I mean, I really don't know of any more direct steering out there. And there's just a tactility to the way it feels that you don't really get in other cars except Porsches. And I feel that way about the 911 steering too. It's just superb. And it makes the whole driving experience that much more pleasant when the steering works so well. And in this car, it definitely does. The brakes are superb, as you would expect from Porsche. The acceleration is not going to snap your neck or, snap your head off. But it's solid. It gets to, like I said, it gets to 60 in 4.5 seconds. That's not That's nothing to sneeze at. The view out is great. The seats are comfortable. We put a couple hundred miles on it. My wife and I put a couple hundred miles on it yesterday, which was superb. We enjoyed it very much. And as I said, a car this good for that kind of money is really kind of a bargain, actually. And we'll go back to Wesley Wren now and talk about this baby some more.
If there's a young person in your life who's really into cars, give them the gift of R&T Crew, the ultimate subscription box by Road and Track for kids ages 6 to 10 every other month. A box is delivered to their door and is stuffed with cool accessories, fun activities, and a magazine chock full of facts, stories, games, and more. Sign up now and receive the all-new Need for Speed box and enter code Autoweek. That's, of course, AUTOWEEK for 10% off an annual subscription. Just head over to rtcrew.com. That's rtcrew.com and use the code Autoweek. I love that. What a segue. What a nice pre-recorded segue, Mr. Raynal.
Like I said, I'm a trained professional.
So you mentioned the steering of the Porsche Cayman T. Is it really that sharp?
I mean, I think it is. I don't know of another car with better steering than a mid or rear engine Porsche. Now, having said that, the bigger Porsches, the crossovers and the Panameras and things don't have the steering feel / lightness of feel, tactility that these mid and rear engine cars have. There's something about, and I don't know if I'm no steering engineer. I don't know if they're using the same steering system, same steering box ratios, any of that stuff in this car compared to some of the other cars. But this car's steering and the 911 steering feels better than most any other car on the market that I can think of right now. Simple.
That is a vote of confidence. But, Mr. Raynal, this is a quick spin, and we try to get to the essence of the automobile. And that means now it's time for you to get to the raison d'etre of the Porsche Cayman T. Mr. Raynal, why does this car exist?
I think Porsche needed something below the 911 back in the day, right? Other than the front engine cars. They had the 944 and 968 and things of that nature. This car exists to give Porsche yet another way to make money. I mean, Porsche basically has no trouble selling pretty much every car it makes. It spends a lot of its time executives there spend a lot of time thinking about different ways to configure cars. That's why there's, dozens of different types of 911s and plenty of different kind of Boxsters and Caymans and things of that nature. I think Porsche was looking for a slightly entry-level-ish Cayman / Boxster, and this is it. It slides in, below 100, which is not a good price for a Porsche. Below 100, I mean, you can't quite touch a 911 for less than 100,000 anymore. Boxsters and Caymans you can pretty easily. So I think it's sort of, I don't want to say the volume player. That's probably the Macan and the bigger crossover, the name of which is escaping me right this second. But yeah, I think it's just an entry level sort of way to get into Porsche.
And an entry point that sounds like it's very fun to drive. But I think with that about wraps this one up. Thank you so much for listening, Mr. Raynal. Thank you so much for going out and driving a Porsche. It's hard work, but somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do it. The things I do for the readers it's just a sacrifice.
And listeners too. But don't forget to head over to Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to this dang thing. Drop a review. Let us know what you want to hear about in the future and also what you think about the show. And also, thanks again to Jim, who actually reached out, and we're going to find a way to review a Mustang for you. But most importantly, and I can't stress this enough, thank you for listening.